Contracts. In this short video we will present an overview of the law of contract, starting with a definition of a contract. A contract is very simply defined as a legally enforceable agreement. We enter into agreements every day of our lives, but not all of those agreements are contracts. If the agreement is legally enforceable, in other words, if one of the parties to the agreement doesn't do what they promised to do, and the other person is entitled to sue them for that, then the agreement is a contract. When you hear the word contract, you might think of a complicated written document that needs to be signed, but that is very simply one type of contract. There are many other types of contract that don't need to be in writing and signed. Contracts can be made verbally, and some contracts are implied by the conduct of the parties. Some contracts are formed and performed at the same time. So when you go to a convenience store and you purchase a can of soft drink, you form the contract when you go up to the counter with the can of soft drink and you offer to purchase it, and the person behind the counter accepts your offer and agrees to sell you the can of soft drink. You then hand over the money and you receive the can. So the contract is formed and then performed at pretty much the same time. Other contracts, one or both of the parties make a promise to perform at a later date. So for example, if you borrow money from the bank, you form the contract. When you enter into the written loan contract, the bank performs its side of the bargain by loaning you the money, but your side of the bargain, which involves repaying the money at a later date with interest, is performed later on. So the contract was formed, but then it wasn't performed until a later date. There are three essential elements to a contract: an agreement, intention, and consideration. In later videos we will look at each of these separate elements in detail. In doing so, we will use as an example a very famous case involving contract law, and that case is Carlyle and the Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. The Carbolic Smoke Ball was a product that was marketed and sold by the Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. A picture of a carbolic smoke ball appears on the left of your screen. It's a rubbery ball that contained powdered chemicals that you snorted up your nose according to the instructions 3 times a day for 2 weeks. If you follow those instructions, then according to that advertisement on the right, the carbolic smoke ball would positively cure a wide range of ailments, including influenza. The Carbolic Smoke Ball Company offered a £100 reward to anyone who used the carbolic smoke ball according to the instructions and still caught the flu. And then the ad went on to say that £1,000 is deposited in the Alliance Bank on Regent Street as proof of our sincerity in the matter. Mrs. Carlyle purchased a carbolic smoke ball. She used it according to the instructions and nevertheless caught the flu, so she claimed her reward of £100. £100 in the 1890s was a significant amount of money. The Carbolic Smoke Ball Company refused to pay the reward, and Mrs. Carlyle sued them for breach of contract. And so the question the court had to decide was, did a contract exist between Mrs. Carlyle and the Carbolic Smoke Ball Company? And in answering that question, the court considered whether or not there was an agreement between Mrs. Carlyle and the Carbolic Smoke Ball Company, whether the two of them intended that agreement to be legally binding, and whether Mrs. Carlyle had provided consideration for the Carbolic Smoke Ball's promise of a £100 reward. In later videos we will look at each of those three questions in turn.